the product that I sold when I was in F&I was called Skylink. And for some of our legacy folks that are on the that are listening to the podcast, they're going to remember Skylink. And it was owned by a company called Intellex. One of the principal investors in Intellex was Larry Van Tile. So naturally, it went into all the stores, whether it was a preload or it was sold in a one-for-one or off-the-shelf scenario. So Spirion's major footprint is in the buy here, pay here space. And what they could never achieve was being able to inject themselves into the franchise car space. Plus, Spirion wanted the drive time business, which their device is called LoJack on the buy here, pay here side. So that's how this all happened. Intellex was purchased by Spirion. The vice president for Intellex he came into the store and we were talking, and I remember I said, hey, I said, you know, what's the toughest thing for you as the vice president of sales for Intellex? And he says, well, you know, it's finding folks that are in automotive that can move out of automotive and still be able to maintain a high number of sales and follow up, right? Because I think a lot of automotive guys wait for folks to come in, right? And that's it. They don't have to go out and find. So the hunting side can be a bit difficult. So I was hired, went to work for Spirion. We sold the Skylink product for a good while. What really was a catalyst for me at Spirion was Peoria Ford had a used car purchased from identity theft, and they self-insure, is my understanding, on used cars. And so it was one of those King Ranch, Mac Daddy Ford trucks. And so it was a $65,000 hit on his P&L. And so that's tough to come back from. And so Pat Hickey agreed to preload, really made it a high priority in finance. And when the other dealers started to see, a 75% pen rate, along with contributions to their reinsurance, it became very interesting. So we signed up a ton of stores in Texas, Florida, out here in Arizona, and things were going fine. And I think, like a lot of hungry salespeople, I was recruited by another company called Connected Dealer Services, a good group of guys. Unfortunately, the opportunity was misrepresented, and we had some leadership changes. And so what I saw within the company was folks that had never caught an up, never spun a deal, never written service, really had never done anything in automotive besides working in the telematics division for Verizon. And so there was some nepotism that went on where the chief revenue officer at the time was hiring colleagues that he had worked with. And why not? I mean, you want to insulate yourself with people that you know and trust. And so after 4 years and working really hard with them, we decided to part ways. And honestly, I really felt as though my time in the GPS space had closed. And so I spent about a year just reevaluating, taking some time for myself. And a very good friend of mine, Jay Law, who works with me, he covers the East Coast. He just kept hitting me up. And I kept saying, look, I just don't know as though I care to do this. I'm trying to find something that really puts me more on the fixed operations side, mostly because when I was in sales, I made a lot of money through the service drive. And I just felt like my best customers came from the service drive. They didn't come from Auto Trader, Cars.com, or newspaper listings or whatever we were doing to get folks in. I felt like they already had a relationship. So that barrier for rapport had already been broken down, right? There was a trust through the service writer. And so, but he called me at 7:30 on a Friday night, and he's on the East Coast. That's 10:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Better be important, man.
Yeah. And he spent 3 hours talking with me, and we talked about everything: golf, personal life, family life, work. We both worked at Spirion together. And the reason why I flew out and I met with our owner, Sam, and the leadership team is a couple of reasons with Icon.